Welcome to this week's I-26 update. We were just joking about doing this. Now I'm laughing. Anyhow, pulling up to the parking spot. I had the sun right in my face because it was a little bit later than usual. But, you know, you can still see a little bit right there. Let's see, there was a little bit of change with this gravel pile here, but not really enough to be worth worrying about. But the big thing was they were working over on the other side. I don't remember if I saw exactly what it was, but I think there were a couple of guys over there messing with something. Yeah, there's a truck. Yeah, there they are. They were doing something. I don't remember seeing what it was, but yeah, well, they're prepping for something, assembling whatever it is. Again, I wonder if they're gonna leave the slope how it is, or start filling or cutting down. I don't know. They're gonna do something to change all that. And I walked up here and I walked behind the one blocking sign because it was in my way and I wanted to see a little bit over here. Can't really see a whole lot, but the crane had been moved and the one of the cables was down like it was going to move something. So I was trying to see what that was, and I had about 10 cars, maybe more, coming up the hill, and so it was just, while I'm waiting for them to pass, let's do something. We have twins. The two centerpieces sitting there. And if you look, you can see the other one right there, almost behind that post, waiting to be lifted. And it puzzles me how they're going to lift the two centerpieces, because they only have the one big lift piece. Whatever. So we have the hill, and I guessed wrong again. Big surprise. They did not put the centerpieces on, but after I got over there, I realized why I was wrong. And I wonder if they're going to put the bracing up. And that's also why they haven't put anything up, because they have to have the bracing in place before they can put the first outer deck pieces. Because I went back and looked at some of the videos from building the, what is that, the east side? The other side that's done. They put the two centerpieces on, then they put the bracing up, and they put the first piece on over there. So that's got to be what they're doing here. But they also have to have the practical engineering called them something. They're expansion contraction pieces that allow movement for expansion and contraction. And there were more cars coming here, so I went up to the end of the bridge, and then I was like, I'm not walking across with 20 cars coming. So I went back. A lot of people coming to see the leaves, and they're a little early. Well, I guess they were going up to Mount Mitchell. Anyhow, a little bit of a view down there. And then I just walked back because no reason to walk across when I'm going to get run over. Probably have to do this again next week. Oh, I'm going to cramp. I hate my feet. And we have gravel with a tractor to move it around. And they have dug out around this side of the anchor, whatever this is called over here. And they have compacted all of this area so that they can put the I-beams out there. It just dawned on me as I was saying that that's exactly what it is. They got to level out the place so that they can put the few pieces that the crane can't get all the way back to the foot. They have these, they've done other compacting down there. Got a couple of, I guess those are telehandlers. Excuse me. Set up, and the one was lifting someone up to the top of the leg. And I walk over and I'm like, there are a lot of cables around this thing. And I looked at the other one and I said, you know, those cables were on that other one and they've taken them out, taken them off, whatever. So they might do some more finish work on that leg to clean up those holes. But back to this one, they are working on these cables, and there's the first piece, the first big piece, decking piece, whatever it is. And on Friday, there was another piece laying in front of where the crane is facing. So they've got both of the first off the leg pieces ready to go, but they didn't stand the new one up. They just took it off the truck and set it in front of the crane. So they're not ready to put it up yet. Again, I think that they're going to put the bracing up. And I was not watching that closely, was I? Oh yeah, I was looking down at the ground airplane. They had a thing spinning down there, and I was wondering what in the world it was. But as this, and the guy waved at me, as time progressed on this, I realized what was going on. And at one point, oh man, one of the guys controlling the telehandler got it. He jerked something and it was sitting there jerking back and forth, and I just had to look away because I was like, I can handle heights, but man alive, that just made me nervous for those two guys in that machine. Oh my heavens. Oh, that was just, I don't want to watch them fall. Anyhow, if you look at the telehandler coming up from the bottom, they have a hose coming off of it. Now, maybe you can't see that yet, but I know I did move out a little bit more and I was able to see that. One of the guys on the other telehandler stepped off and anchored himself, or tied himself in to an anchor point on top of the leg. And then he was watching and directing. Obviously, he knows what he's doing with this. Maybe he's a supervisor of some kind. He was just making sure everything went right. They had some buckets of stuff up there with him. I guess he poured them into holes in the top. I don't know, but they still have to put those sliding pieces, whatever they're called, onto the top so that the bridge can expand and contract and move back and forth with the with heat and everything. I don't remember what they're called. Look up practical engineering bridge pieces. Either way, they can go side to side and they can go forward and back. And if you look around the guy standing at the top, there are 4 holes that those pieces are going to be fitting into. And maybe they were getting ready to do that, but you know, he has some buckets of stuff right there beside him. I'm guessing he did something with them later on. Who knows? I didn't stay long enough. I just stayed long enough to see what this was about, and I had to get home because I can't stay here all day. I wish I could, but dang. Somebody give me a time-lapse camera that I can just leave there, you know? That would be so cool to have. Trail cam. Oh, well. They had some buckets, and the lower one was reaching up like they didn't know where they were going to. But they eventually got up to where they were touching the pole at the first top row of cables. And then they picked up the the hose and started messing with it. And I was like, oh, that's a mortar, or what's it called? It's concrete. What's the word? I hate autism sometimes. Can't remember the word. Mortar. There's another word for it. Anyhow, that was me looking over and looking at the holes over there. They fill the holes up with this mortar so that it anchors those cables in place, and then they'll lift up the legs and tie them in by tying in those cables and bolting them in, or whatever it is that they're doing. Another plane. I swear I'm coming in at the perfect time to watch the planes. A little after 4, I think it was. I'll have to look at the dash cam. But the guy on top was all anchored in and started telling him what to do. Those two people came together and they handed over some buckets, and it looked like they were heavy, so they had stuff in them. Maybe they'd been spraying some of that mortar mix into them. There's a specific word for it. I hate it when I can't remember words. And then I sit there and try to remember the word and just confuse myself. Anyhow, they handed off the buckets, and then the one on the upper level went down and dropped the buckets, and I think there was an engineer walking around with drawings, elevation drawings or something like that, so he could verify that that's what they were doing. I guess engineer supervisor, and the guy on top is the management supervisor, who knows. But after they did that, the one from the bottom moved over, and they kind of rammed themselves into the leg so that they wouldn't move. And that's when they picked up the hose and started pushing it into the holes. So once those are filled and all of the cables are properly tied in and set, then they'll lift the legs up, the bracing legs, and lock them in so that they can start putting everything else on. They also still have to put the sliding around, shifting, expansion and contraction pieces, the little feet on top of the leg. I would love to see how they lift those, the narrow pieces, because they've got the big one tied in with their, big anchor lift piece. But the little ones, I didn't see them put them on last time, so I don't know how they lifted them. But that would be neat to see how they tie into those so they can lift them up. They can do the first one by just looping a chain through it, though I really seriously doubt they'll do that. But the other one has to be able, excuse me, has to be able to slip down beside it. And so they're going to have to connect to it from the top or edges, something, so that they can set them, less than an inch apart. And once you have a chain there, you're not getting it closer than an inch. So I moved back some to see if I could see around the end of the leg, see a little bit more of what they're doing. It was kind of neat to see them going through this process and understanding that that's what's happening. I wonder how they're going to lift the legs too. I'm sure they have bolts on those that, tie in really well, and I have a bug flying in my face. And there were lots of cars. Oh, at one point there was a, oh, what was it? It was a gorgeous car. I think I turned around and get a good look at it. Oh, it was old, like British motorcycles with the two-wheel drive in the back. It was cool. Two of them right behind each other with the sidecar built in and everything. Anyhow, the guys at the bottom were running the equipment, pushing the mortar. Every time I say that, I know that's the wrong word. Anyhow, into the hose, doing the pumping, and the guys up there were starting to fill the holes. Probably just took them a long time to do the first couple, and then they got a little bit better at it as they went down. I mean, this was close to 5 o'clock, and they were just starting into this, so they're pushing for getting as much done as possible, as quickly as possible. Don't want those winds to hit them. They always happen. October, November, a little bit of December, always our windiest months around here. And they were moving. The lifting system is on the one leg, so lots of stuff to be lifted up. Hope you can zoom in on this and or watch it on a big screen so you can see the pipe and everything that was going on. I know that I could see the pipe when I was standing there, but it was a fairly tannish color, so it might be blending in because I'm not seeing it on my screen at the moment. But they've got it up there, and the guy on top is telling them what to do and how to get it in there, I guess. And then I said, you know what? I've watched about long as I can, and started backing up. Then I started getting blinded by the sun and was like, oh, if I'm getting blinded, the camera's getting blinded. So yeah, you can kind of see them. If you can zoom in, do it. I would love to be able to see them put those small pieces on, because they got to slide them over the rebar pieces that are sticking out, unless those are there until they put the feet on. I don't know. Anyhow, if you look on the leg that's already finished, you can see some of the holes that the cables that were used to tie up the bracing were on. I would love to know if they're going to go back and fill in those holes so that they have a nice smooth surface on that leg. I don't know. Another quick glance back. Getting too far away to really see anything of what they were doing, so I didn't worry about it. But there's the old British motorcycle. You can see the drive shaft going underneath it, and their other partner with them. That was neat to see. I don't know what they're called, but either those are reproductions or they're original from like World War II. Top Gear, maybe? So, no, 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞 drove one of those in one of his articles or podcasts. No, it was his show on CNBC. I wonder if he can do that on YouTube. Anyhow, another plane just came in. Yeah, I'm too far away to see any detail of what they're working on. Wish I could have stayed for a couple hours and seen them go down the whole leg, but that would have been boring, and I don't want to be too boring. Lift up the camera and get a look at the other anchor foot thing over here. And then I jump back to the car and drive out. And I was a little surprised that the crane had the cable down like he was planning to lift. Maybe the other decking piece arrived that night, but I swear it wasn't there until Friday, because I remember seeing it when I drove by on Friday, and you've probably seen that already on the update on Saturday. Then we got the handheld. Getting too much sun. Yeah, it was way sunny. The sun was right in my eyes. But got a little bit of a side view once I decided to turn. Oh well, I guess I didn't. Pulling in, I was getting too blinded. Trying to pay attention and not driving off the road the wrong way, or running into that other car there. Do the bump up onto the road. Drive by with the side view. My FBLA shirt. And the big crane. That is such a big crane. Able to lift, what were those, 600,000 pound blocks of roadway decking? Amazing, amazing crane. And that's all of that. Now I've got Glen Bridge Road. Again, not really anything happening here. Not really expecting anything to happen. Like I said on Saturday, I don't think that since Glen Bridge Road, since this old bridge isn't in the way of any new construction, it isn't in the way of any old construction, they're just going to leave it until they get enough done that they can finally spend the time and focus to tear it out. So that's probably not going to be done until after they need to work on a silence wall for that side. So probably they might have the roadway torn out going up to it, but it's useful at this point in time for getting material back and forth between the areas that are being built. So, you know, as long as it's useful, as long as it isn't in the way, I see it staying for another 5 months. So, not much to... Dang, why do I have hiccups? Not much to worry about that going away right now. Somewhere between 4 and 6 months. Maybe in spring it'll get torn out as they're finishing up the roadway. That truck was there doing something. So I'm not going to do Rockwood Road anymore, but I did have a brief encounter with a person filling up a water truck, that was 2 seconds. There is construction here on Rockwood Road. They're tearing all of these trees out now. I was a little surprised to see that. But there's going to be a subdevelopment built there. And then they had a grinder on this, and it looked like they were tightening it down. But that's a small grinder, so I don't see them doing that for the freeway, because that looks like too small of a machine. Anyhow, I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.